I have once again asked you for your unpopular opinions about the pop girls in our lives, and today I am here to react to them and add my own commentary on what you have to say about the rising crop of pop girls, the main pop girls that we already know and love. And I want to say, just off the bat, as I said in my last version of this video, that I love female pop artists. They are my everything. This is the kind of music that I was born and raised on. It is what I grew up on. It is the food that feeds me. It is the subject mostly of my YouTube channel. And, I am never here to tear anyone down. If I'm saying something that is a critique, it is a critique delivered in good faith. I am a fan in some way, shape, or form of every pop girl out there doing it right now. And I'm just here to see a slay. And if I don't see a slay, I call it like I see it. That's how it is. And yeah, so if you're a fan of a particular artist and you're here to get very upset about the way that I respond, then maybe this is not the place for you. This is the place for you, however, if you like thoughtful pop culture, because my name is Zach, I'm the Swiftologist, and I make thoughtful weekly videos about pop culture. You can find me talking about a variety of things on this old YouTube channel, but today we're going to be talking about pop girls, my favorite subject, and I hope that you will subscribe, because 50% of you that watch my videos are not subscribed, and that hurts my feelings. So I would very much appreciate if you would rectify that right now. Let's start with the juicy one, shall we? Lorde could be as big as Taylor and Olivia. Weird two selections, but it seems she doesn't enjoy being in the spotlight at all. I think that, could Lorde be as big as Taylor Swift? No, I don't think anyone could be as big as Taylor Swift. If they could, there would be more than one. In terms of Olivia, when we're thinking about the impact that Lorde had on her first record, Pure Heroin, it was very much surpassed culturally by Sour. That definitely penetrated your minds, your homes, your hearts a lot more quickly. I think that Lorde, when she was younger, made music for people who were a bit older and appreciated the kind of sardonic social commentary that she brought to the scene. It definitely resonated with young people, that's for sure, but it resonated with like an alternative group of younger people. It wasn't like a mainstream product by any stretch of the imagination. It just happened to be one of those kind of like alternative indie pop crossover moments. And you definitely see that in the response to Melodrama, because Melodrama, though completely excellent and full of quality music and one of the best albums released in the 2010s, it didn't have even half of the commercial impact as her first record, Pure Heroin, did. And also, I think that it really kind of further pushed her into that like outlier of pop mode, and as it should, because Melodrama was not intended to be a rip-roaring chart success. There wasn't like a big single on it. So I think that that has never been Lorde's intention, but also it is really not something that she's capable of as an artist. She is like a center-left indie light pop star. I don't think she's ever really fit the bill for being a pop star in the truest sense of the word. Weirdly, I think Lana Del Rey is even better at being a pop star than Lorde is. She has a more natural, I think, inclination to do pop star things, pop star behavior. I'll have to expand on that at a later date. But I don't think it's possible for Lorde to be as big as those two. I think Lorde has a very niche set of fans who are interested in what she does, and she creates specifically for that fan base. So I don't really see that she could be bigger than them, and that it's because she's afraid of the spotlight that she's not interested at all. One thing I will say about Olivia is that she's not really an active social media user either, to the extent that you would expect from someone that is like an artist in the social age. I would say that period of time between Sour and Guts, she was very quiet, just like Lorde often is between record cycle promotion. So I would say that Lorde doesn't have the range to be a main pop girl in that sense, but that's okay, because that's not what we want from Lorde, and that's not what she's good at. Now here's one that I agree with, a spicy one. I adore Lana, but she is a lousy performer. It just has to be said. It has to be said. Lana is so frustrating to stan. I'm a Lana stan, in case you don't know. I have many Lanaologist videos. Please go and peruse them if you're interested. So this is coming from a good faith and a lot of love place. I think that Lana is an excellent artist, but what's interesting about her is that she is treated like a pop star, but she doesn't always necessarily move like one, and her music isn't really fit for pop stardom either. There was a period of time, like I would say Born to Die, Paradise, maybe even until Ultraviolence, where there was kind of maybe seeming like a space opening for her to create more mainstream music. But something that I really respect about Lana is that she always sticks to her guns creatively, and she is not interested in going whichever way the wind blows or chasing trends or trying to get any sort of like chart accolades. That has never been her deal, her goal, or her interest, even though she has been so adeptly able to shift and drive culture with her music alone. The intention of the music is not to do that. It's just so good and so influential that it does anyway. And part of Lana's issue, I would say, as a pop star is that she's not a good performer. And, a lot of people will make excuses for Lana and say that, the traumatizing experience of performing for SNL and the response that she got to that, which was totally out of proportion, and writing her off as an artist based off of one kind of mid performance, it wasn't even that bad. That is unfair, and I totally agree, but that was live TV. I understand why she would be nervous to perform on live TV again. Lana is a lazy performer. That is my biggest issue with her. The set lists that she creates are so incredibly boring. She literally is doing the same set currently that she just did at Coachella with a few minor tweaks that she's been doing since 2018. That was the last time we saw like a Lana set overhaul. There's no reason why, with so much music and so many albums out, Lana is still doing Cherry and Pretty When You Cry in the set. Like, there's just no reason for that, and barely even touching her most successful record, Norman effing Rockwell. My issue with Lana sometimes is that it seems like she's a bit of a provocateur. She's a little bit of a contrarian, and she doesn't want to please the people in that way. Like, she simply cannot be bothered to like learn the new arrangements of the songs that she wrote. Even when she was doing the Norman Rockwell tour, the set list was still padded out with like older songs, and the selections that she pulls from the older songs as well are baffling to me. It's the same thing over and over again, and Lana's catalog is actually pretty diverse, and I think it's so large now that she could put together a really good, effective, interesting Coachella set that doesn't feel lazy or boring or sleepy or scary for her. And you know, you can see that when she does try to redesign the set, like the beginning of her Coachella set was so good when she rode it on the motorcycle, opening with Without You, bringing back West Coast. But then you see her on stage and it's like she doesn't care to be there. She doesn't really sing sometimes. She often forgets the words. She doesn't have a good stage presence. She kind of just like mopes and wanders around. And, you know, sometimes that has the effect of being like cool, and it has the effect of being like irreverent. But a lot of the times it comes across as a bit contemptuous to the audience, because at the end of the day, people are paying to see you and they're paying to see a show. And if you can't be bothered to be there, then you just shouldn't do the show in the first place. And everything is always last minute for Lana. She's always, you know, pulling something together at the last minute. She said the Coachella set was super chaotic for her, and she missed half of her Glastonbury set because she was getting her hair done. That's unacceptable. For an artist of your caliber that's getting paid what you get paid to do these performances for crowds that are this large at events that are this high profile and prolific, to be late, to run late, to treat these events as though your time is the only person whose time is important is very disrespectful to the audience and to the people that book the shows. So I think Lana is a lazy performer. I wouldn't even say she's a lousy performer, because when she's really on, when she really cares, which is rare, when she's really on and she really cares, she can give a good performance. Lana knows how to serve. She just chooses not to. She's often allergic to serving, and that is an extremely frustrating part about being a Lana Del Rey fan. I mean, it's crazy. She did a Coachella set. That's like the most visible you could ever be as an artist at any given moment in time. And she basically played nothing from her Grammy-nominated album, Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard, and also nothing from her most acclaimed album of all time that's literally basically about California. It doesn't make sense why she would make these decisions if either she like couldn't be bothered to change the set, or she just doesn't care how her fans respond or interact with her work. And yeah, I think something funny and cool about Lana is how irreverent she is about her fame, and how casual she is about like posting things and like chaotically changing the title of the album at the last minute, announcing something before it's ready. That's all like fun and part of the bit. But when it comes to performing, it's disrespectful. It kind of makes me annoyed, actually, as a Lana fan, because I've been to see her. I saw her once in concert. It was a dream of mine to see her. She never came to Asia. I did meet her once, and she was lovely when I met her. But the performance that I saw, I just was kind of left with the set list, the pacing of the show. It feels haphazard. It feels shoved together. It feels like it's the same show that she was doing 4 years ago, just with like 3 or 4 songs tacked onto it. And I was kind of left wondering, why? Why does it have to be like this when you could so easily serve? Why? Regardless of her mental state, Britney Spears deserves more respect. She's an icon, period. This is so true. And I think it is so upsetting that Britney's legacy as an artist currently is that she was in a conservatorship and that we had to free her. And now it seems as though she may not be totally well again. That's not to say she should be under a conservatorship, but it is kind of difficult to watch someone kind of like publicly struggle with their mental health, especially that like fall from grace from being a pop star. And being a pop star is all about really perfection. It's about having things put together perfectly for you. It's about communicating something clearly. It's about slaying, basically. And Britney is kind of doing the opposite of that in her personal life, and that is difficult to watch. But I also think that the unfortunate part of that is that people have forgotten how great Britney was at her peak, and also just as an artist in general. I did a whole video on Blackout and why it's one of the greatest pop albums of all time, and it's such a blueprint for modern pop music. Charlie XCX, noted connoisseur and purveyor of good taste in pop music, often points to Blackout as the best pop record of all time. Like, Britney is the blueprint, and she may not have been the most talented person in every area. Like, she wasn't the best singer. She didn't really write that much. She was an amazing dancer and performer. That really, truly was her skill set. But what she was really good at was being a curator. She knew how to get the right people in the studio to give her the right songs. Like, Blackout was one of those albums where she had so much calamity going on in her personal life. She really only had time to show up and curate the vibe and say what she liked and didn't like. And what ended up coming together, even in that extremely chaotic period of time, was like a truly excellent, innovative, futuristic, little, tight, concise, perfect bite of pop music. And I think that her agency is so often sidelined when we're talking about her as an artist. I think people have like revised the record to really view her as a victim in every aspect. And Britney was certainly victimized, but I don't think she's a victim, and I don't think she likes to be characterized as one either. And, you know, part of the legend of Britney Spears, why we're so interested in wanting to free her, was because she so effectively embodied the role of pop star, of like gorgeous, carefree, liberated woman who was really just living her best life and being hot and going on world tours. And that was iconic. A lot of Britney's like staging and theatricality, what she did in the early 2000s, really set up a lot of the young pop girls for doing what they're doing now. The most clear Britney influence that I can see currently is with Tate McRae. Like, her choreography, her staging, the way that she performs feels very Britney inspired. And Britney herself was very inspired by like Janet Jackson and Michael Jackson. And it's interesting to see, I think, the development of pop music throughout time and to see what different artists' legacies will be. And I think that Britney's legacy is going to be performance. It's going to be about really committing and having a fire in your eyes and giving. I think a lot of Gen Z, I saw like posting that like Slave for You video that she did in the 2001 VMAs where she's a snake. A lot of people were like, well, this isn't that good. And it's like, this is the bedrock. This is the foundation on which every pop house was built. How dare you turn around and say that it's not that good? It's difficult for people, I think, to like imagine things in context anymore. And Britney was huge because there was a monoculture back then. There was no social media, or there was social media, but it was very nascent. It wasn't as nicheified as it was before. Britney Spears was like Coca-Cola or McDonald's. She was everywhere and she was everything. And I think that's really difficult for people to understand. The closest comparison is the way that Taylor Swift is dominating culture. But even so, it was completely different back then. Britney was everything, and she still is. And I think that, you know, a return to music for Britney is pretty unlikely, but I think we could all stand to just acknowledge her contributions to modern pop a little bit more. Yes, I agree. Madison Beer has no it factor that sets her apart from others, despite how much people try to make her have it and talk her up. I agree. I don't get it. It's like Ariana Grande cosplay. It's not that interesting. It reminds me of Sabrina in the sense that it has taken many years for Madison Beer to take off. Even so, I don't really think that she has taken off. But the best thing about this day and age is that there's a stan community for every flop. It didn't always used to be like that. There used to be a thing called a one-hit wonder. Now we have no-hit wonders. People who have no hits and continue to make music and have stans incredulously. So you know what? For that, I say Madison Beer, congratulations on being a no-hit wonder. You are doing amazing, sweetie. Normani has taken too long to release the album. The excitement is gone and it'll flop. Unfortunately, I have to agree with this. There's a lot of conversation about Normani, and it actually kind of weirdly reminds me of Sky Ferreira, like the conversations about whether it was her fault or her label's fault that Masochism, her second album that has never been released after her first album came out in 2013. There's a lot of conversation and blame game going around, but it seems like resolutely no one wants to give Normani any accountability for the fact that she just has failed to produce anything or capitalize on the momentum that she had with Motivation. I think Fifth Harmony was not a big enough girl group to really be riding the coattails of it for this long and expecting people to still care, especially when your output has been so sporadic and your engagement with the media also has been so sporadic. Normani has just like been an influencer for the last 2 or 3 years, like just posting Instagrams and doing sponsored collaborations. There is a lot of conversation about her parents being sick, and that happened, I think, in the beginning of the pandemic, and I totally understand that you like need time off to do that and take care of people, et cetera, et cetera. But this problem predates that and postdates that as well. And I think the real answer is if you wanted to, then you would. And there's all these myths and legends about Normani having these amazing songs just like in her back pocket waiting to be released. But if that was the case, then why is the stuff that has been released so terribly mid? I thought Motivation was excellent. And I think that Normani suffers actually from the same problem that Sky Ferreira suffers from, which is that they never release anything because they're so perfectionist about it that they can never get it to a place of feeling finished. And I think that this is the difference between a really creatively talented artist and a driven creatively talented artist, because at the end of the day, nothing is ever going to be perfect. There is a point where you're just going to have to put something out. When you can afford to be a perfectionist is when you're Beyonce, when you've built a career and you have people that are going to be seated and tuned in no matter what, and you know that you can just shift culture with, the flick of a finger. When you are still building your legacy, you can't afford to be this selective with your output. It's more important basically in the social age to be putting something out than putting nothing out. And no one is going to care. If you wait 4 years to put out something perfect, no one is going to care about that perfect thing. They're just going to remember all of the not perfect things that you could have released in the meantime, which is the main conversation that is surrounding Normani as this new album is coming up. This new song of hers, I'm left wondering why. After all these years, I'm like, this is what we waited for? There's something, I don't know. I really thought that Normani had it, especially with Motivation. Like, Motivation was incredible. That music video is maybe the best music video of the late 2010s. Like, it is really everything. It's so creative. Normani is such a star in it, and her label had to force her to put this song out. She didn't want to put this song out, which says to me that your perfectionist tendencies are not aligned with the reality of what people want from you, and that's another problem as well. When you're creating art as a creator, you are not just creating art that you want to make, you also are keeping the audience in mind, especially when you're trying to sell something like music, because it's a product, right? You have to keep in mind, like, what do people want from me? People really responded very well to Motivation. It was very successful. It was a big pop culture moment. It got a huge VMA performance. Songs like Fair really didn't make much noise, and it seems like Normani's doubling down on that sound and that style because that's what she wants. When really what people were really responding to was the thing that she didn't want to put out at all. And to that I say, you know, indulge your creative whims, queen, but I think that she definitely has missed her window of opportunity to really be something, for all of those reasons I just stated. Under My Skin is one of the top 5 best albums of the 2000s, better than Let Go, and it deserved Album of the Year. Now, you know me, I'm an Avril Lavigne stan, I'm a little black star, but top 5 best album of the 2000s, I don't know if we can say that. I mean, it's up there with one of Avril Lavigne's best albums, but in terms of the best albums ever created, I'm not sure that that's where it belongs. And when you said it deserved Album of the Year, I went to go take a look at like who was nominated that year and did Avril deserve a nomination. We had Kanye West, College Dropout. Like him or hate him, I don't like him very much. I don't think anybody does anymore. That was an incredible album, like a culture shifting album. We also have The Diary of Alicia Keys, another incredible and culture shifting album. We also have Usher's Confessions. None of those won, by the way. Ray Charles won for some random album. Another steal year, flop Grammys, of course. But did Avril Lavigne's Under My Skin deserve to be in competition with those other records? I prefer Under My Skin to all of those records, but I can acknowledge that the cultural impact that it had was not that great. I think the unpopular opinion also said that it was better than Let Go. And like, yes, I think it was kind of a better album, maybe, but Let Go definitely had more of an impact. If there was ever going to be an Avril Lavigne album that deserved Grammy nominations, it was Let Go. I'm pretty sure Let Go was nominated for a couple of things, but, you know, Under My Skin is great, diva, but I think you're being a little delusional. Texas Hold'em and Cowboy Carter as a whole is not good. Beyonce is not a country artist. I think we're missing the point here. We're missing the point. It's not about whether Beyonce is a country artist or not. She is against being defined as such. I did kind of expound on this in my last video, but there is something about Cowboy Carter to me that feels a little artificial and a little overproduced, and I think that maybe might be what you're picking up on here. But Texas Hold'em is fun. It's just a fun TikTok song, and why can't Beyonce have a fun little TikTok song as a treat? Why not? It's fun. And also, Beyonce actually does country when she's singing it very convincingly. So sure, she's not a country artist, but she can do it if she wants to, and for that, we have to stand. Rihanna's influence on modern pop R&B is understated, even though multiple artists claim they're influenced by her. Stan Twitter says otherwise. Again, who cares what the swirling cesspool of Stan Twitter, people who are mouth breathers and sleep on, you know, futons on dirty floors, have no jobs, no friends, have never had sex, virgins terminally. Who cares what they have to say about anything? That's where we need to start. We start there, and then we go to, well, I don't think Rihanna cares. I don't think Rihanna cares about music anymore. Another unpopular opinion that I got, and I don't think this is unpopular, I think it's probably true, was that the Super Bowl was like Rihanna's sayonara to music, her like final closing chapter. And you know what? It kind of felt like it, and it was a really underwhelming way for her to go. I think there were a couple of unpopular opinions about Rihanna, actually, that she is not that good, and that Anti wasn't even that good of an album, and that her music is not that good overall. Rihanna is a hit maker, the likes of which we haven't seen in a very long time. She was successfully a dominant presence in pop culture as a musician for like 10 years consistently. She was a consistent hit maker. That is actually a really difficult feat to accomplish. And something I will say about Rihanna is that she is more of a singles artist, and a lot of her albums, because she's put out a lot of albums, especially in a short span of time, she put out a lot of albums. A lot of her albums just seem to be vehicles for like one or two really big singles, and they sold really well as a result. But Rihanna has the kind of charisma and personality that can carry that kind of like middling output. And at the end of the day, when you go to a Rihanna show, the set list is jam-packed front to back with songs that you know, songs that you love, and songs that everyone around you is going to go absolutely crazy to. And to me, that really is the mark of a true pop star, is being able to get up on stage and start to finish play songs that drive the crowd wild. And that really is kind of the mark of a great pop artist to me, someone who can bring everybody together simply by playing like 20 songs in a row that everybody knows. It's a feeling that you can't get anywhere else when you go to a show, and it's front to back bangers. And it's a very difficult feat to accomplish for artists, even in this age of streaming, when theoretically it's easier to get a hit than ever, an enduring hit that everybody knows, that intergenerationally people know. Your mom knows We Found Love. Your dad knows Umbrella. Your grandma has never heard Greedy by Tate McRae. That's the God's honest truth. So I think that Rihanna is actually underrated as a pop girl. I think it's correct that her influence is not widely appreciated by the general online communities. But I mean, you can feel and hear the Rihanna influence everywhere. I hear it most strongly in SZA. SZA also, wrote a song that was kind of stolen by Rihanna that she was very upset by. But, Rihanna trailblazed, I think, a space in pop music for the I can care less girl. And she has always stayed true to herself, even in her various iterations of like EDM, R&B, whatever it is. It has always felt like Rihanna. It never feels like Rihanna trying to be something else. It just feels like Rihanna doing something different. And that speaks to the compelling nature of her persona and her character. And that's a really underrated part of being a pop star that is hard to mimic. You can become a better singer. You can become a better dancer. You can become a better writer. You cannot learn an it factor. And Rihanna just has it in spades. So even when she's promoting a mid song, it seems like a great song because she sells it. And, I want to talk about Anti for a second, because Anti was a truly incredible album. And like, if you are going to leave the music industry and never create ever again, I think that creating one really perfect album is kind of the way to go about doing it. And that album is so good and so underrated. It's very of its time, like that 2016, 2017 era, but it's also aged so well. And I hear echoes of it in so many different albums that come out now. And yeah, it's true. Rihanna rocks. I would love to see her return to music, but I think it's never going to happen. I don't think she's interested in it anymore. She certainly doesn't have to do it financially. It's a lot harder to make hits and be a pop star than it is to do makeup and to be a fashion icon. I mean, all of the pop girls are now trying to follow in Rihanna's footsteps. We've got Selena Gomez with Rare Beauty. We all know she definitely needs an enterprise outside of singing to hold on to. Ariana Grande's got R.E.M. Beauty. She's been focusing on that very heavily in the interim period between Positions and Eternal Sunshine. And we have Halsey with About Face. I mean, everybody, Lady Gaga, House Cosmetics, everybody wants to be Rihanna. Again, trailblazer. Eternal Sunshine is not as much of a gag as people are making it out to be. I got that too. I also got another one about Ariana Grande. With the death of the monoculture, Ariana can no longer pull the same amount of attention that she used to, so she's stuck in the same position as Taylor during the Lover era, past her prime in that genre of pop music, and a genre switch is needed. Well, you know what Eternal Sunshine has that Lover didn't have? 2 #1 singles. And she didn't even try that hard to get them to go #1. I mean, there was a little maneuvering with Yes and, but Taylor was literally selling organs to try and get Me and You Need to Calm Down at #1, and it didn't work. Much more embarrassing. I would say I don't understand that comparison between Lover and Eternal Sunshine. Lover was Taylor at her most confused and her most grasping at straws. To me, Eternal Sunshine is Ariana at her most focused and her clearest, with the least amount of bloat surrounding her as possible. And I do think that a lot of Ariana's prior works are stuffed with a lot of like kind of middling okay songs around the good ones. This one to me was very consistent and it felt very deliberate, which is something I haven't got from Ariana before. Also, I mean, yes, the death of the monoculture has like affected all artists, but Ariana's Eternal Sunshine still had a moment. Like, We Can't Be Friends went viral. Yes and also had a moment. It didn't have a very good moment for her. It got a huge backlash, but that was still a moment. She still is, starting the conversations. And I think that Eternal Sunshine also did remarkably well for an album that literally got zero promotion at all. Like, no performances, no interviews. It really, I think, took on a life of its own. And it also had a lot of competition with all of the stuff that was coming out after it. And I think that it's held up pretty well and people are still thinking about it and talking about it. I really liked it. I was surprised by how much I liked it, actually. And yeah, I just have to totally disagree with you on that one. I think that Eternal Sunshine is the best thing Ariana's ever done. Also, past her prime in that genre of pop music, and a genre switch is needed. Eternal Sunshine is sonically very different to Positions. So I don't really know what you're talking about there, because there definitely was a switch that was made. She returned back to the Max Martin thing and like kind of doubled down on that like 90s pop influence that she picked up and dropped very quickly earlier on in her career. So I don't know what kind of genre you're suggesting that she wade into instead, because this already felt like a departure from the last, I would say, 5 or 6 years of her career. So expand. Espresso is not a bop. That's just wrong. That's not an unpopular opinion. The people don't lie. Maybe you've never had that me espresso, but that's not my problem or anyone else's, and you shouldn't inflict that upon everyone else. So I guess it just doesn't mount and do it for you. Ariana Grande is the best vocalist, but such a poor fake person and icon. Again, the moralizing around Ariana Grande specifically is baffling to me. The whole Ethan Slater drama has really done a number on her career and her reputation, and I think semi-unfairly. I am here for the pop music. I'm here for the moments. I'm here for the work, and I don't really care about people's personal lives as long as they're not doing something like extremely heinous and offensive. Like, she's not Kanye West. I feel like male artists in general get way more passes to be terrible people than Ariana Grande does. Specifically, she's like the lightning rod for, like, I think, misogynistic abuse hidden and disguised as moralistic outrage over the fact that she may have been involved in like a cheating scandal. It's like, in the grand scheme of things, is a cheating scandal really that bad? Is it really that important? How many people cheat on each other every single day? It is really a fact of life. And this weird like Gen Z new Victorianism where this younger generation is being so oddly conservative and parroting right-wing talking points that they don't even realize they're doing, homewrecker, et cetera, et cetera. It's interesting. It's interesting. I feel like people don't really understand what they're doing when they engage with these kinds of conversations. And it is frustrating to me. And also, like, how do you know if she is a fake person or a bad person? You don't know her. You're going off of what other people are saying. Some of Lana's songs are just talking. Some are great, but she is inconsistent. Lana, I think, seems more inconsistent than she actually is because her output is pretty high. She writes a lot of songs, and all of those songs are very intricate and very detailed. So I think to a certain extent, they can all blur together. One thing that I have been wanting Lana to do as of late is really like hone it and dial down and focus more on creating really like considered and thoughtful works. But it seems like that's not the mode of creativity that she's in right now. She's very into automatic songwriting. I think I explained this in my Tunnel Under Ocean Boulevard video. That is not a creative approach that I enjoy listening to in pop music, especially not from Lana, someone who I think has the capacity to be, or is the greatest lyricist of her generation, and deliberately eschews that brilliance in favor of being lazy from time to time. So I can see what you mean, but I think that she has more hits than misses, to be honest. Miley is not capable of making a great album all the way through, even with Plastic Hearts. Flowers was a fluke, Miley's lucky Grammy win, and it will be hard for her to make another good hit. I think, that's more correct than anybody would like to agree. She was the pop girl who got the least submissions, by the way, to this question. The person that people are thinking less about, at least in my very small sample size of people. Miley is an interesting one to me because she's like full of personality and she's full of charisma and she's a very engaging performer, but she has bad taste. That's what I've noticed, is that she's not very good at like selecting songs that are going to do well, and she is not very good at curation. She is very into like being fleeting and having moments, but she is very quick to discard whatever moment is now for what's next. So I think a good example of this is the Younger Now era. That was kind of a fumble, and instead of like owning it or really trying to make the album work or promoting it properly, she immediately kind of was like, well, I hate that and it was bad and I'm moving on. And I think I talked about this in my last video with Charlie XCX. It is kind of hard to get invested in an artist's discography and their iconography when they themselves are so dismissive or, like not enthusiastic about it. Miley also doesn't have a great follow-through track record, I would say. That Imaginary 3 EP that started with She Is Coming, that was received so kind of like lukewarmly that she just decided to give up on the project entirely. It's like, well, when you don't believe in yourself and you don't believe in the work and you can't be bothered to tour it or promote it or, really like stand behind it, then why should anyone else? I mean, Endless Summer Vacation came and went. It was a flash in the pan, truly. I didn't even think Flowers was that good of a song. It's just kind of like a viral TikTok song. However, I will say, I thought Endless Summer Vacation was the best Miley album we've heard in a while. I thought that it was the most consistent thing we've heard in a while. Plastic Hearts to me felt very put on. It felt very like Miley doing the glam rock, trying on vibe. She was really just like going through a phase, and that's how I feel about so many of her eras, that they are just costumes that she puts on and takes off. And then it's hard to know like who is the real Miley as an artist? Like what is she really interested in? She has these like weird kind of singles, like the single she just put out with Pharrell. She was riding high on like great momentum and visibility from winning her first Grammy and doing that amazing performance of Flowers, and then she comes out with this flop, dated, embarrassing song. It's like you had all the momentum and then you wasted it on a flop project that she has discarded already and moved on to something else. So Miley is frustrating in that sense. I don't think she's capable of making a really, really, really interesting album from start to finish that's super consistent. I think mostly because she doesn't want to. She seems to be more into like archival fashion at the moment than actually being an artist. And she also has no interest really in performing anymore. I think that probably has something to do with the fact that she was worked so hard when she was younger, and she only wants to do what feels good. And I think what feels good is not being a main pop girl. And that's totally her right. Meghan Trainor's music all sounds the same. The jump scare that I got when I saw Meghan Trainor's name here, I was like, pop girls? Meghan Trainor? She's like a children's artist. What does she, like, I am continuously baffled by the fact that there is still a label with a budget putting money into her. But I guess like grocery store cashiers need to listen to music too. Uber drivers need to listen to music. People in the airport need to listen to music. And Meghan Trainor is right there for them, basically making royalty-free stock music. And some people are clapping and cheering. I don't even think they're clapping and cheering. They're just like looking up and going, subtle nod. There's no claps and there's no cheers. But nevertheless, she persists. Sabrina is not Taylor's daughter in any way other than them both being blonde pop girls. Absolutely. Taylor's real daughter is Olivia Rodrigo, and nobody wants to acknowledge that, including Taylor herself. I've explained this many times, but Olivia is the closest thing we have to a Taylor Swift in terms of her ability to move culture, the fascination that young girls and young people have with her, and also the confessional diaristic songwriting that is both confessional and personal, but also interesting and artistically excellent. And it makes sense that Taylor's not going to co-sign the competition, basically. If you have the Midas touch from Taylor Swift and she says, I anoint you as the next queen, you know you're not a real queen, because she would never put someone that could threaten her crown in a position where they would be able to do it. And that's just good business practice. So she's uplifting Sabrina Carpenter because she knows that Sabrina does not have the range. And Sabrina literally has nothing in common with Taylor Swift as an artist. Like, they really do not exist in the same realm. And what Sabrina does is something that Taylor, I guess, kind of can't do, which is do the really kind of like silly, vapid, campy song. Taylor has her We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together, but even that is smart and has like a point of view and a perspective. Espresso is, you know, that's that me espresso. And I love that. But Taylor Swift does not need to be doing that. So she does not need to be threatened by a certain pint-sized Tay daughter, allegedly. Norman effing Rockwell is the quintessential Lana Del Rey record, not Ultraviolence. Who says that Ultraviolence is the quintessential Lana record? I feel like everybody understands that NFR is the best Lana album. It is by far the most consistent, the most interesting. It was the most critically acclaimed. The only person who refuses to acknowledge that as being her best body of work is one Ms. Del Rey herself, because she basically refuses to perform these songs and kind of acts like this album never happened, which is crazy to me because it's incredible. Some of these songs have never been performed live. It's not that long of an album. Why have we never heard The Greatest live? It got a music video, but we can't get our asses up and sing it on stage? Question for the culture. Where's The Greatest? Katy Perry has always been that girl, and I miss her forever. That's so funny. Katy Perry has never been that girl. She was that girl for about 5 minutes, and we all loved it. It was great, but that period of time came and went. Katy Perry is kind of corny. I compared her to Duet in my last video in that I don't think she really has a sense of self, and she kind of was a bit of a flash in the pan that never really managed to recover from that. But I think that Katy now is leaning into like being kitschy and being a little bit tacky and not being like a main intimidating imperial like fierce pop girl. That's not her vibe. Her vibe is more like hee hee, I'm silly, look at me dressed as a toilet on stage. That's literally what she did at her Vegas residency. And I feel like a Vegas residency is the perfect way to encounter Katy Perry. Like, that is where she's at her best. There isn't that much pressure on her. She doesn't have to do anything new. Most importantly, she just has to stick to what's good and what we know. And I'm happy about that. I think there was a brief period of time that she kind of did not capitalize on, where she could have maybe had a bit of a comeback. And that was when Never Really Over came out. But at that point, she had so quickly squandered her goodwill that I think people were just no longer interested. But that song was kind of everything. I even liked Small Talk, the follow-up to that. Her like droplet singles era, Harley's in Hawaii, that was pretty good. But then we got Smile, and the world kept moving. It did. It didn't stop. Melanie Martinez is underrated. Melanie Martinez is perfectly rated. I would say she's overrated. She is dressed as a monster on stage singing incomprehensible nonsense every night. What is there to rate about that? The adult baby thing is genuinely disturbing to me. That, and then moving on to I'm a monster, I don't have a face anymore. I mean, every choice she makes is more baffling than the last. And what's interesting to me about this very intricate world making is that she prioritizes it over making actual good music. And it's like, shouldn't the music come first and the performance and the nonsense come second in service of the music? It seems like she operates the opposite way around. And it's not even that I don't get it. There's nothing to get. Like, it really is overrated to me. I'm sorry. Olivia fans are more annoying than Taylor fans. How can that possibly be true? Swifties are literally like a gang. Swifties are literally like an internet militia that is out to do vigilante justice to anyone that steps out of line ever, including Olivia Rodrigo and her fans. I mean, just by sheer size, Taylor's fans are the worst. The way that they like try and take down reviewers and the way that they respond to anyone who's even mildly critical of her, there is no fan base more toxic than the Swifties at the moment. The only fan base that would give the Swifties a run for their money is the Barbs. But I would never critique the Barbs. I'm a Barb. I'm a Barb. I'm a Barb. I'm too scared not to be. I'm a Barb. I'm a Barb. I'm a Barb forever. Selena Gomez has never had any standout songs and is at best mediocre. Selena Gomez is mediocre, for sure. She is like the upper tier of the B-class pop star. She's an upper middle class pop star. She's never going to be in the range of a Taylor Swift or a Beyonce, but she is kind of solidly beside Miley Cyrus. And people don't want to admit that, but like Selena Gomez's output and music on the overall is better than Miley Cyrus's music. I'm not saying she's a better singer. I'm not saying she's a better performer. I'm saying that the music, the amount of hits that she has, are greater than Miley Cyrus's and are probably more memorable. I think that Selena Gomez has some perfectly fine singles in there. Do I think she's an albums artist? Not really, but I think that some of her singles are incredible. That Droplet era of hers that she had, Bad Liar, Fetish, It Ain't Me, I even thought was great. She is a very uncomplicated pop star, and I think that if you divorce her from being a main pop girl and you just think of her as like a Sabrina Carpenter kind of person, this is the lane that I think Sabrina Carpenter should be trying to occupy, by the way. I don't think she should be doing her like weird emotional ballads or like overwrought songs because I liked a boy. I think she should be leaning into that Me Espresso and, you know, Hands to Myself, good for you. Sexy, slinky songs that don't require much effort, really just giving like a sexy performance. I feel like that is where she would be good. Selena is for sure falling off though. Like currently, I don't know what she's going through, but I'm not seated. I was seated for Single Soon, but I have to admit that Single Soon was bad. I loved it because it was bad, but it is bad. Love On to me is like so bad I can't even pretend to enjoy it. But Selena Gomez's discography, if you go through it, there are actually shockingly quite a few number of songs that I would say are actually very good pop songs, if you just lower your standards ever so slightly. Someone said Avril Lavigne is irrelevant, and I want to touch on this because I think it's such a goddamn insult. Avril Lavigne is ever present in pop music. You just don't know about it. Olivia Rodrigo, heard of her? She is this generation's Avril Lavigne. There would be no Olivia without Avril. There would be no Billie without Avril either. And frankly, there would be no Taylor without Avril either. We are never ever getting back together. When that song came out, everyone was like, oh, Avril Lavigne, girlfriend. That's exactly where this came from. And Taylor did like a similar kind of like genre switch at a similar junction in her career that Avril did when she went into full pop. Now Taylor executed that a lot more skillfully, but the blueprint was the Avril Lavigne model. And a lot of these artists have cited Avril as a direct influence. And just because someone is not at the forefront of culture and making a number one hit that you have heard in the last month doesn't mean that they are not relevant. And I think it's really disrespectful to like say that about an artist that has as long a career as Avril Lavigne has. She's going on a greatest hits tour and she's what, like 25 years into her career or something crazy like that. And she's selling out arenas. That is not an easy feat. And I think that people often look at everyone else as flops when they compare them to Taylor Swift, but Taylor is the exception, not the rule. She's astronomically successful. It's not normal for a pop star to be that famous, even by like huge pop star standards. Avril Lavigne has left an indelible mark on the music industry and continues to be a relevant inspiration to so many artists that are making the music that's driving the culture today. So to call her irrelevant is uneducated, to be honest. Sabrina Carpenter, Gracie Abrams, Renee Rapp, and Tate McRae should never be lumped in with Billie and Olivia. I have to say that's the truth. I have to say that is the truth. To me, of this crop of pop girls, Billie and Olivia stand apart in that they are doing something that is sufficiently different from what their peers are doing and is also sufficiently successful. Like, people are very interested in what Billie and Olivia are doing. They're selling out arenas. They're going on big tours. They're having big singles. They're like moving the culture with what they do. Espresso, as much as I love it, is not different or new. Greedy is not different or new. Not My Fault by Renee Rapp. Who asked for that? Gracie Abrams. No one's ever heard of her. No one's ever heard of her. And people get so mad at me when I say that about Gracie Abrams, but like, let me just go on a Gracie Abrams spill for a second. Gracie Abrams would not be anything if she was not a Nepo baby. Truly, her access to the entertainment industry is literally because of who her father is, and her output is incredibly middling and boring. She is not an especially good singer. She's not a very good writer. The production work that she included on her first record was extremely boring and dull, and if you relate to it and resonate with it, that's fine. But I objectively believe that she is not not a very good artist. She is a middling to average artist. The new song that she just put out, I thought was an improvement, but it's not really, making waves. I don't think people are really responding to it that well outside of her fan base. To be fair, it is a difficult time to be releasing at the moment because there's just so much going on. There are so many pop girls releasing. But to me, time will prove me right that Gracie Abrams will fade into obscurity. She's not going to have a long career in the music industry, even though people like Taylor Swift have, tried to give her their blessing. People who get Taylor's blessing are not long for this world as pop stars. Let me tell you. Where's Camila Cabello? Where is she? Where's Rachel Platten? Where'd she go? Where's Kelsey Ballerini? Exactly. But yes, to answer the question, I agree. Olivia and Billie stand apart and are already main pop girls. That's really not a conversation that needs to be had. They have cemented themselves sufficiently. I don't even really like Billie's music that much, but I can appreciate what she does and that it resonates with people and that she has profoundly impacted the culture. Leve will be a main pop girl on her 4th album and too many are sleeping on her. This baffled me. This baffled me. I was like, why her 4th album? And also, main pop girl, that's not even the kind of music that she makes. She's not trying to be a main pop girl. Leve is like a more commercial and more optimistic Mitski. That is Leve's like realm and lane. And I don't think that her music is ever really going to be getting like big radio play. I don't see her selling out stadiums with that kind of music. And that's okay because not every pop star needs to aspire to that. Leve is, let's not forget, a niche artist. What she does is a very specific kind of thing that other pop girls are not doing, sure. But I'm almost hesitant to even classify her as a pop girl because it feels disrespectful to her musicianship. She's like a real musician in ways that pop girls usually aren't. Composition, instrumentation, vocals, musical stylings. I mean, it's in different areas. So I wouldn't sink to the level of saying that she is going to be a main pop girl because I think that she's trying to do something a little bit more artistic and timeless than that. And that's not to say that you can't be artistic as a pop star, but I think that Leve is like a more serious musician and that she's not as interested in the pomp and circumstance, but time will tell. I don't think Avril enjoys performing and it shows when she plays live. Yeah, Avril's thing is that she's a bit surly. She's a bit blank. She's a bit indifferent. I like that because that's her personality. I feel like you either kind of vibe with Avril's I don't care, surly, sullen nonsense, or you find it annoying or boring. And if you find it boring, then I can't blame you because Avril does kind of just like walk around the stage and holler and like glare at the audience, but it does something for me. It does something for me and millions of other people. All right, I think I'm going to stop there. I hope you enjoyed this and make sure to follow me on Instagram if you ever want to participate in these unpopular opinions videos. I always solicit my questions from there and I hope that you have a wonderful day.